Let me now give the floor to Norm to provide an overview.
Well, I wrote something down that summarized what I heard today and I wrote last night, so my task is to do 4 things in 7 or 8 minutes. Summarize the 8 proposals you've heard and the responses to them, identify their common themes and congruencies, place them in the context of our ever-evolving national debate about retirement security, and most important, make the obligatory Brangelina joke. So let me start with the most important. So I was looking for humorous material about Brad and Angelina, and I Googled Brangelina and pensions, which surprised me. It spewed out 1,170,000 results. So I decided that was too many to go through, especially since it was late at night. And so I tried Brangelina and defined benefit plans, which reduced the hits to 22,500. And I compared that just out of curiosity to Avery Borsey and defined benefit plans, which yielded only 1,510 results. So in desperation, I put in debeification and Brangelina. And surprised me, I actually got a result, but then I looked at what Google's told me, and it said, "Are you sure you didn't mean deification?" Okay. Okay, but finding so many results for pensions and Brangelina, you know that the discussion taking place today is topical, if not important. It's sort of the opposite of what people were saying earlier. And I also, I guess, want to take issue with Karen. I think Brad and I think their fecundity, both biological and adoptive, has really done a lot to redress the demographic problems we have. Okay, so having made the Brangelina jokes, I don't really have time to summarize all 8 proposals, but I do have some observations on them. The first observation is that the first 6 proposals, those presented in panels 1 and 2, have a lot in common. Indeed, I think it's fair to say that the 4 proposals on the risk-sharing panel could have fit comfortably in the panel on expanding coverage, and vice versa. I think it's because a proposal that apportions risk sensibly and efficiently between employer and employee will attract interest from both employers and employees. Ultimately, employers want to provide the most retirement security for their employees for each dollar of contribution, which means keeping risk manageable for the employees without the employer underwriting all investment mortality, maturity, and inflation risk. All 6 proposals, to a greater or lesser degree, seek sensible and efficient ways of allocating and pooling risk. In a real sense, trying to locate the sweet spot, I think I'm the 3rd person that used that phrase, between controlling employer costs and not imposing unmanageable risks on employees. Moreover, the proposals reflect the important idea that some risk can be reduced with no net cost simply by using pooled and professionally managed investment funds that, through diversification, greater access to alternative investments, and economies of scale, should produce higher overall results than employees typically earn managing their own individual accounts. It's also important, I think, that these proposals are modular. That is, they're each composed of building blocks, and the building blocks are, to a large extent, interchangeable from proposal to proposal. Thus, everyone in this room can go home tonight and play with blocks, building their own ideal proposal, taking, for example, one element from POP, this element from the Super Simple, and this element from the investment portfolio cash balance plan. I should note, also want to note a theme through the conference that, with adequacy, one of the important facts is how much money we put into a plan. Even if every American worker participated in a workplace retirement plan, and even if every one of those workplace retirement plans perfectly apportion risk, whatever that means, we would not necessarily produce benefit adequacy for many American workers. Why? Because employers, employees, and the government, through tax expenditures and an expanded savers credit should be an important component of that tax expenditure, must ensure that workers are putting sufficient amounts in the plan each year. Here are several of the proposals, including the Super Simple, the Retirement Securities Funds, and the Secure Choice Pension Fund, anticipate aggregate contribution levels of at least 6%. I should note, though, as Jean, or I guess Pam noted, that even these contribution levels are smaller than the 9% contribution rates to the Australian superannuation funds and the 8% contributions that some of the designers of Britain's nest pensions initially contemplated. I don't think that's actually happening in Britain, though, that the contributions are going to be that high. In other fact is what Judy called regulatory risk, the high cost and uncertainty of complying with the myriad requirements of federal pension law. Two of the proposals deal with this by transferring most of the administrative and fiduciary functions away from the employer, the Secure Choice Pension Fund to state administrative platforms, and the Secure Retirement Funds to single-purpose retirement institutions. And Mark noted that Eric had a similar proposal a few years ago. I also want to talk very briefly about risk in somewhat more detail. Several of these proposals deal with, well, actually, I think there are two kinds of risk, right? There's ordinary market risk, and then there's catastrophic risk, or catastrophic market risk. And several of the proposals deal with what I called ordinary market risk by creating two benefits: a basic benefit that is low but essentially assured against all but catastrophic risk, in part by using low discount rates, and a higher benefit contingent on a plan's investment performance. The idea is promise low but pay high if the gods of investment performance smile in the plan's portfolio. The proposals accomplish this in different ways. For example, in the adjustable pension plan and the portfolio design cash balance plan, the employee at retirement essentially gets the greater of two benefits. In the secure retirement funds, however, the employee may receive annual interest credits that can be lower than the plan's actual investment performance, but the plan can also increase the benefits with dividends from a reserve. And finally, several of the proposals deal with what I just phrased catastrophic investment risk or market risk, in some cases making the employer the ultimate guarantor, and in at least one case, making the employees collectively the ultimate guarantor. I've neglected to talk about the proposals on the third panel to this point, in large part because they sort of eloquently speak for themselves. But with the rise of the 401k plan and the increasing preference of employees for lump sum payments from defined benefit plans, the problems of making money last through retirement is among the most serious retirement security issues facing most Americans today. The truly thoughtful ideas that we've heard about how we can use private sector innovation and how we can use properly structured government programs to help people with this very difficult task, I think is all very positive. In closing, I want to make one additional point. Although this conference was premised on exploring defined benefit types of approaches to retirement savings, we should be careful not to allow a binary choice, defined benefit or defined contribution plan, dictate retirement policy. It is only when we begin to think in terms of problems and solutions rather than plan categories that we'll be able to address the formidable but I think non-insoluble problems of retirement security for American workers. It's time to put our shoulders to the wheel.
Terrific. Thank you, Norm.